Hey there, so in video one, we talked about your author brand. What do you have to offer of value? And that's really important because a lot of authors are more about the creativity and the self-expression, and they just hope that other people will like the thing that they've made. In video two, today we're going to talk about how to write a book that millions of hungry readers want to buy. And this can be hard to hear for a lot of authors because most authors are told you just want to follow your passion until the book gets done. And that's helpful advice because writing a book can be difficult. It takes a lot of intention and effort because there's a ton of skills you have to learn. And by the time you learn all those things and finish the first draft, if you ever do, you probably have somewhat of a mess. Maybe you've finished your goal of telling the story you want to tell, but it doesn't actually satisfy other people. And that's always going to be the benchmark for whether or not your book is successful, is if readers enjoy reading it, not because you told them it was really good or you convinced them to read your book, or that they're doing you a favor to support indie authors or whatever. The book has to be good from the first page. It has to hold their attention all the way through. There are ways to write a book that satisfies readers, and a lot of authors are not interested in figuring out what those ways are. On your first book, maybe you aren't either. Maybe you just want to try to get it done. But when you want to publish books that sell and that readers like enough to share or review, then you have to figure out, what do readers want from the reading experience? How can I give them what they want? And that's sort of a basic business thing, but it goes against what most artists or creative people are told about how to do the work. We're told, forget about the audience, forget about the market, just do the thing that brings you joy. And that can be a way to finish the work, but it's not a way to finish the good work. I've got a really long article about Steven Pressfield's War of Art, which I know a lot of creative people like because it tells you to just focus on the joy, but they're less aware of Steven Pressfield's follow-up, Nobody Wants to Read Your Shit, which is actually a really good book that goes deep in detail about exactly what you need to do if you want to write compelling commercial fiction. There are strategies and templates that you can use that are they're the bedrock of successful fiction, not only right now, but for the last 3,000 years. This is how stories are told in an engaging, dramatic way. And you can learn them. And it's not selling out. It doesn't make things more difficult. It doesn't make things less creative. It just means you're more likely to finish a book that readers actually enjoy. And that's a big step that a lot of authors aren't quite ready for. Sometimes you have to put out a book or two and fail and realize that, I did my best at telling my story, but nobody wants to read this kind of book. So writing to market doesn't necessarily mean chasing trends. Like, you don't have to write vampire romance or fantasy or whatever is popular right now. You can write the things that you like to write, but you should still look at what is selling in that genre. What are the best sellers doing? Read 5 or 10 of the books that are getting, the most sales, the most reviews, that are sort of similar to your type of book, and see if you can do something similar. That's how you can start. I've got a 24 chapter outline for writing fiction. I also have some templates for writing nonfiction or memoir that are really useful just to give you some structure so that you can sort of put your story together in a way that builds momentum and keeps readers reading. So it took me about 10 years and 20 novels. The first one was super hard for me to finish, to figure out, this 24 chapter outline, which I now use for all my novels because it's just a really good place to start. It's based on others like Story Grid or Save the Cat, which I find a little incomplete because they don't tell you what to do in the middle. Mine's a little bit, more in depth, which a lot of authors really like because it gives them, something that holds their story together and tells them what to do. Some discovery writers or pantsers, they may not like structure and they just want to write the story. And that can totally work for you if you're writing books that people want to read. Just because you have the joy and have the passion and you finish it quickly or you write quickly doesn't necessarily mean you're writing books that people want to read. That's all I've really got for the second video. I've got, so much more to say on the subject and a lot of strategies to help you write books that people want to read. I've got a whole course about it and a huge nonfiction book about craft if you really want to get into the nitty gritty. But just to start out with the idea that your sales will always be limited by the number of people who want to read that type of book. And because we talked a little bit about in video 1 about showing up when people search for you, it's not enough just to have a story that satisfies them. It has to be the kind of story that they're actively looking for, and that also makes a huge difference. So if you write something that's not popular right now, it's not what people are reading, it's not what people are looking for, it's going to be hard for people to discover you. It should at least kind of look like it fits in with the other things that are popular in your target genre, so that when your audience is searching for things, they find your book, it kind of looks like what they want to read, and they read it, and they're not disappointed. If you try to kind of write a book that's sort of similar to the best-selling popular stuff, but it's actually not at all that type of book, you may get negative reviews or less engagement or less traction because you tried to pitch it as something that it wasn't really. You really have to start from scratch and write the thing that readers will want. And again, this is something that's uncomfortable for a lot of authors because they're not ready to do that yet. So this whole series, Building an Author Platform, will definitely help you no matter what type of book that you want to put out there. You'll get more visibility, more opt-ins, more reviews, all of that stuff. But your sales will always be limited by the size of the audience who is looking for the type of book that you wanted to read. So maybe you're number 1 in your categories, but it's a super small category and you're only selling a couple copies a month. That's fine if, like most authors say, I don't care about the money, I don't care about being famous, I just want, only one reader to read my book and enjoy it. That's great if that's your goal, but what most authors actually do is they say that, I only want one reader, and then they get really frustrated when they can't get more readers or more reviews or advertising's not working or, they're wasting money on book marketing and their books just won't sell and they can't figure it out. Most authors want sales because if you put so much time and effort writing a thing, you want people to like it. You want lots of people to like it. But it's not something you can just kind of hope and trust and, maybe it'll take off. It's something you can do deliberately. And we'll talk more in the next video about how to actually put a book together and then how to publish a book that attracts the right kind of readers. Thanks, bye-bye.